Good morning and welcome back to the Red Mic. Happy Monday. Hope you had a good weekend. These Red Mic messages are leadership and life lessons I've picked up from 25 years as a public servant, 16 years as a youth football coach and scouting volunteer, and 10 years as a mediocre athlete with far more heart than actual physical ability. Today's Red Mic message, we're going to start off the week with a few Ted Lassoisms. Be a little bit more like Ted, shall we? The different kind of TED Talk, right? Okay. On paper, it sounds silly. A guy with no soccer, okay, football experience, coaching a professional team. Recipe for disaster, right? And there for a while, it does go horrifically bad. And if you haven't watched Ted Lasso, and that's a big spoiler for you, sorry. It's been out for a while. Get over yourself. Um, he goes in, he completely turns the whole place on its ear. And although there are some pretty bad failures along the way, at the end, it's a triumph. It's a master class in leadership, humanity, humility, and being a genuinely good person. He's not a coach. He's a walking life lesson. I mean, come on. So, optimism. Ted doesn't just say believe. He means it. He lives it. It's who he is. He believes in his people even when they don't believe in themselves. And you see it through the whole course of the series. That optimism is contagious. Um, I mean, Rebecca, the owner of the club, she hired him because she wanted to blow it all up and burn it all down. But by the end of the series, she's willing to throw everything away just to continue to have Ted in her life in a truly professional, platonic friendship kind of role, which was really refreshing too, to see someone in her kind of position. And come on, let's face it, Ms. Waddingham is drop dead. Yeah. And to see her with that kind of strength and that kind of power, but to see how strong her respect, her belief, her friendship in Ted was. It was great to see that kind of male female relationship that had no romance tied up in it whatsoever. Um, Loved it, just really did. Um, you know, Ted saw an unsuccessful team and he said, "Yeah, we're not losing, we're learning." Believing believing in yourself, believing in others, believing in your system, believing in your philosophy, it's it's very powerful. It's it's not thinking that, oh, well, this is just a pie in the sky. You've got to believe it all the way down into your core, and Ted did. And eventually the people around him did too. Remember Ted's goldfish philosophy. Be a goldfish. They've got a 10-second memory. Now, scientifically, whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. And frankly, I don't care. The whole idea is, and I mentioned this on Friday, talking about, one of the points that I made was talking about don't become a victim to history, whether it's good history or bad history. Don't let your mistakes haunt you or hold you back. Ted, I think he was talking to Danny, said, be a goldfish. They've got that 10-second memory. So once it's out there, nothing you can do about it. So forget about it. Throw it away. Be resilient. It's not about being tough. It's about letting go and staying open to what's next, right? All right, success. For most coaches, and I was guilty of this more often than I would care to remember, it's all about the wins and the losses. For Ted, it was about helping his team, his players, the people in his life become the best version of themselves. And Krim, the reporter, takes him out to eat. He goes out to eat with him, and they go to this Indian restaurant, and Ted just orders it up. He'd never had Indian food. He'd never had hot Indian food, especially. And he just kept piling it on the plate because he was like, you know what? I don't want this person to think that I don't like their food. I don't want them to feel bad about themselves. So I'm going to power through all of this. And during this conversation with Krim, Krim figures out, man, he means this. And that's why his first real column about Ted is, you know, I expect him to be a total failure, but I can't help rooting for the guy, you know. So try not to measure the wins and losses. Try to measure the incremental steps. One of my very first Red Mike messages, and maybe I need to dust it off and go back to it. Talked about this track coach who was talking to his player, his student, his mentee, and they were all bummed out and depressed about they came in last in a race. He said, "No, look at this. Your time was better than any of your other times previous to this. You got better." He said, "You won. You didn't have to beat them. You had to beat yourself." And that was Ted Lasso philosophy in a nutshell right there. It's being the best version of yourself. Conflict's going to come into every life, and Ted leans into it. He doesn't run from it, right? He might attack it with humor, kindness, honesty, but he doesn't shy away. He even said, you know, Woody and Buzz, they get under each other's plastic, right? You know, so conflict happens. There's no way to avoid it, and Ted shows us it's not about avoiding tension, but managing it. Figuring out the best way to move forward. Don't run away from it. Don't be afraid to admit that you're wrong. Build bridges, not walls. Be that kind of leader. Last but not least, courage. It's very courageous to try to live your life like Ted Lasso. He's not flashy. He's not loud. He even says in one of the episodes, you know, look at me. I'm like Ned Flanders trying to cosplay as Ned Flanders, right? He recognized who he was. He recognized his own shortcomings. He recognized his own physical attributes that people are going to pick on. Say the truth. You know, again, you've heard me say this. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember with a lie, right? Stand up for what's right. Show the people that you're not only strong, but that you're willing to be vulnerable. You know, the reeds that are around most natural water in the U.S., they sway, right? With the amount of wind, the amount of waves, and everything else that they are under constant bombardment, if they didn't sway, they'd break off. So don't be afraid to be flexible. Be real, even if it's uncomfortable. Show that kind of courage. Real, raw, honest courage. Don't be afraid to be honest. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Ted Lasso is it's who I hope to be. It's who I hope to put out in the world. He's sort of my spirit animal, and world needs more Ted, right? I hope that I haven't, well, like I said, the show's been over for a while. So if you haven't seen it, sorry for spoiling it. But even if you haven't seen it, tune it in. It's on Apple TV. Ted Lasso. It's a great lesson. You can pick it up. Now, I recommend starting from the very beginning and going through the whole thing, but you can pick up lessons in just about any of the episodes. They're just that good. and be like Ted. Lift each other up. Find the joy in those moments, even when the game feels like you can't win. That's today's Red Mike message. Hope you found it interesting or helpful. I hope that you will be back again tomorrow. Hope you have a good week. Go out there and crush it. Knock the cover off the ball. Please give me a like, a follow, and a share. If you've got any helpful or even unhelpful comments, feel free to share them. These Red Mike messages are for you. Again, thank you so much for being here. I hope to see you again tomorrow. And don't forget, life is short. Drink the bourbon.